Alrighty guys, welcome to the very first ever commentary from a D-list black belt. So I've got for you today the recent fight for who's number one, Nicholas Meregali versus Pedro Merinho. Now there seems to be a bit of a size difference here. They're the same age, but 4 inches is a pretty big height difference, and 20 some pounds is a pretty big weight difference. But I don't think it should matter overall. What should matter is the skill level. As you can see, there's he's ranked number one versus unranked. Now, I'm a big fan of Meregali. I've not seen much of Merinho. Just I know that he lost to Gordon, but everyone does, so that's fine. Let's get into it. So we're starting the match off like we always do, 15-minute time match.
Okay, Jake Watson, what are you thinking as we enter this match here?
I'm just going to mute this so I don't get distracted by their commentary as I'm commentating. So really good grip fighting. Now I quite like this already. So if we back up just a second, I quite like this already from both players, where what they're doing is they're fighting for their grips. Now neither one of them let the other have a grip for free. So what you saw there is Merinho grabbed and grabbed, where Meregali grabbed and grabbed immediately. Now they're completely equal in this position. One's not got an advantage over the other. I would have expected that Merinho actually would have pulled guard, because Meregali is really well known for a stand-up as well. But it looks like Meregali takes him off balance a little bit and pulls guard straight away instead of playing the stand-up game. So yeah, they're grip fighting, and then Meregali immediately makes the third connection and immediately makes the fourth connection. So all of a sudden, what you found is that Merinho is going to be trying to back away because his posture is broken and he's coming forwards. And if he's not careful, Meregali will bring both knees in and then lift him up and over the top in a balloon sweep style fashion. Now he's got 1, 2, 3, and 4 connections for one and not really another, and 2 for the knee in the the forgotten what it's called now, Della Riva. Now what happens here is that Meregali has already got a huge advantage. He's already winning, and so Merinho's going to have to try and back away, which he does, as you can see. Now immediately, I really love this. That leg weave that came over the top stops Merinho from driving in and going around the corner. Because what would happen is, if this leg here was still stuck out here somewhere, there's a huge gap of space now over the other side for Merinho just to dive around the corner. This leg weave effectively stops that before that even happens. And he gets another connection, so you can see already there's another connection with both hands. This foot goes in to connect, and this foot's like a lasso style connection, where Merinho still hasn't utilized this grip and has still got a grip on the other side, but he's not really making good connections or posture. His posture's broken at the moment. And so you see there another leg weave that came over the top, once again shutting stuff down before it happens. And then Merinho enters into this really nice sort of knee cut position, and he's going to be fighting. So you see this end here, how he's coming forwards, and then his grip. So his fingers are here like this. He's gripping for this lapel. Now what will happen here is, if he manages to get that lapel, his elbow will flare, trying to bring the knee sideways, so that he opens up the space on the inside so he can travel down and through with his knee cut. Now Meregali is doing a really good job with his frame, really good job with his knee shield, and this knee is on the floor perfectly. Do you see how it's not up? So what that means is that because the knee's on the floor and his foot's going down that way, he'll be able to have his foot come out on the floor and then shuffle his hips underneath again to square up, and then he'll have a guard again. Beautiful passing attempt. Now, another really good detail that Meregali did. Really gorgeous detail to slow this down. And it's actually probably what saved him here. Is look at his left leg. Look at his left leg as he goes. So, this leg on the back end. Look at what he does. He's got his leg weaves in, and then he uses it to catch. It's a netting leg as well. So you can see it here. You can see it here. It's trying to catch, because if without that, look at his back posture. He's facing that way, and if Merinho is allowed to get around the corner and behind, what will happen is Meregali will have to forward hip escape, because right now his positioning is oriented like that. And he's going to have to try and forward hip escape this way so that this positioning can start rotating back to the opposite direction so that he can bring his leg weaves in over the top and retain his guard. Now, that's really, really hard without this catch here, because what happens is that catch, when he's got his momentum because he's in the air, he's completely off the ground, as you can see. What will happen is that this knee will drag his foot, Meregali's foot, to the ground, and by extension his hips will follow, and then he'll get this orientation for free, as you can see. Now, it doesn't quite work. He doesn't manage to ride up, and instead of fighting it, which is a really good decision, instead of fighting it to try and get back into this space in here, he decides, all right, I'm going to go away from it because you're not quite settled yet. I can feel this in the scramble that you're not settled yet. The posture's gone. He's not got too much weight down yet. So during the momentum and the inertia that hasn't settled of the scramble, I can start running away. And now he will. And he tries to go to turtle. And now what happens here is a really good job, because if Merinho stays on this side, you see how his back is already well away. He's already gone. So what will happen is that he'll have a really solid chance of either grabbing onto this leg or this leg and bringing both of his feet back in the way and regarding and playing from there. So Merinho makes the decision to dive. He's diving, hunting the back, because he gets excited. He goes, right, I've done this really good passing attempt. I see the back, I'm going for it. And everyone in the crowd goes wild here, and I'm not exactly sure why, because it doesn't actually look like that good of a position. Now, we'll keep playing it, but at the moment he's got some good solid grips. This connection, there's no space in there, there's some space in here, but he's either going to wrap over the top or commit wrapping this way. The idea being is that he wants his hips to get underneath so that he can do a forward hip escape, bring Meregali this way so that his back and chest are facing like this. So that's his back, and his chest is facing that way so that he can attack the back effectively. Yep, cool. But Meregali does this really awesome job of posting on the hip, and then he starts getting his shoulders that way, trying to turn to face him so that he doesn't lose the position. Now, Meregali, keep in mind, was already playing guard, so that he's still in a guard at the moment, and he's not actually lost any position. He's still in mid-scramble, mid-guard play. It just looks like it's a little bit more intense for him than it actually really is. So what I would be tempted to be doing here, if I was Merinho, is I would be tempted to try and take mount, or even backstep right now, because I've got the overhook forcing the shoulders down, and I would be trying to take this other hand out so I could prop up on it, like your seated hip escapes, and then you start shrimping outwards, so that I could put pressure and force forwards. Now, most likely what would happen is that Meregali would regard, and I would end up back in a knee cut position, because you lose the control to stop him from moving, but he wouldn't stay on top of you. Now, because he's not staying on top of you, you can get up and on top before he can, because of this hand here. This hand can push him down. So you end up in exactly the same position as what they were playing when they were doing when Meregali were doing the leg weaves, and Merinho was trying to do the knee cut. But he's not lost yet. It's just back to neutral, which, in my opinion, is a much better way to go about it than what actually happens. And we'll get into the mistakes in a second, because here is the beginning of the mistakes. So he goes and he tries to establish a better grip. Oops, I don't know what I've done there. Oh, I'm getting different colors. There we go. I'm back to red. He he tries to go deeper, and he tries to go deeper with the grips, hugging him tighter, and he goes deeper with the leg. Now, he's still got the idea that if he can use this bottom foot, wherever that is, to drag his hips forwards, he'll be able to take Meregali's shoulders this way, get his hips under, and then turn that way as well, exposing the back and attacking it. Now, this is a mistake. So what happens here is Meregali does some beautiful jiu-jitsu, beautiful minute jiu-jitsu that no one ever sees. First and foremost is this grip. Now, if we back it up a second, you'll be able to see the next grip. Now, you see how he has both hands, 1 and 2, on this top leg. Because that top leg is the most important aspect in this position. It's not the grips, and it's not the guard. It's this top leg. Because what will happen is, if he's not careful, Merinho will come up on top. That foot will go over the top and hack in to the hip, dragging this way, and then Merinho will drag himself up on top to mount. So he's doing this really good job of being heavy. So you see his foot here is posting, so his weight can stay in. And then we'll get into it when the scene changes, so the angle changes. But he's doing this really good job of keeping that knee from coming over the top. Yep. Now, watch. So the guard, as it was, became untenable for Merinho here. And so he has to go into like this really whack half guard. Now, from here, he should definitely be bailing. He should be damage mitigating and say, okay, I lost this position. That's fine. I'm better off scrambling out of it, shrimping away, hip escaping away, and trying to reset the position than I am trying to fight it from here. And this is actually, funnily enough, a mistake that most blue belts make. And a lot of my blue belts make this mistake. A lot of my purple belts make this mistake. Even my brown belts still make this mistake. They try and fight the position well past the point where it's actually lost, and they're just holding on. Then they're holding on for a slow death rather than actually being in the fight. Now, this hand here, you'll notice that it doesn't change. And we'll get into this discussion in a second, where Merinho's fallen down a lot with some of the decisions he's making. And that's largely why he's actually losing. It's not because his technical proficiency, by that I mean his ability to perform the techniques, is less. It's because he's making white belt mistakes, basically. And I'll point them out in a second. Now, from here, you'll notice that he does something really well. He does something really well. Where's it gone? Here we go. Watch this foot here. The fact that he hooked it underneath is really quite good for him. The idea being is that if Meregali were ever to let go of this grip, this top foot would go backwards and then to the ground so that his hip could go up. This foot here will lift, and then these hands will aid in the turn. So what will happen is he'll do a big explosive movement trying to off-balance Meregali, and then he'll scramble up on top, potentially into a knee cut, potentially into side control, potentially into the same idea of this foot coming over the top to this hip so that it can hack on and go this way, so that he can take the mount and start threatening positional advancement from there. You know, mounts a different thing that, you know, it just branches off, so we won't mention it at the moment. But Merinho's done this really nice thing with this foot. It's trying to set this up. The issue is that he's playing from a really bad position. Now, he's made the mistake of assuming that his position is actually pretty good because he still can see the back. But just because you can see the back doesn't mean you're attacking the back. And that's a really important distinction. He can see it, but he's actually miles away from the back. Now, we go from here, and he resets the position again, and then he goes underneath again. So he's messing around, not making up his mind with what he wants to do. And I get that there's this thing where it's like an evolving dynamic and all the rest of it, and you'll go backwards and forwards. But you'll notice that the very best players don't actually do that. You'll notice that Meregali here has a plan, and his plan is to free this elbow and get it over the top so that he can either grab the belt or he can grab midpoint down the back. That's what he's been working towards the entire time, and he hasn't been messing around, switching his grips from here to 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 here. And he hasn't been moving his foot around in this big arc from here to here to here to here to here to here and all the way back around. He's been purposely and dedicatedly working on patiently improving his position over time. And then what happens is that people, if you're ever in this position and you're rolling and you're in Merinho's position and you're rolling with your coach, for example, and you go, well, hang on a second, how did I actually lose? I was fine, wasn't I? And then all of a sudden it's just untenable and you lose. It's because you're not noticing that this hand will go to here, and then it'll go to here, and then it'll go to here. Now, keep in mind, Merinho is only 5'9", so that this space between hip and knee is, like 60 centimeter, that sort of thing, 40 inch if you're American. So he's only moving his hand a couple of centimeters at a time. It's very, very small adjustments, but he does this in order to start freeing the elbow to get it out of this space here. Now the problem is that Merinho can't shut down that space there because his arm is straight. So Meregali's arm is straight. And so he's done this really good job of forcing an exposure of space so that he can make micro adjustments very patiently to start advancing the position. Now, the mistake here for Merinho is that he's staying in the position. Again, he should be scrambling away. He should be letting go of this bottom hand, trying to get his elbow backwards. So his hand's like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His elbow is here, should be getting up onto his shoulder and his head like so. And he should be using his other hand to push. So this top hand should be pushing that way as he's going this way. Now, even if Meregali starts scrambling and grabs hold of the legs, you still have that bottom leg free that you can then weave, like Meregali were doing and I pointed out before, and you have a guard to play. Unfortunately, though, he's stubborn, and he kind of does this to himself, in a way, actually. So he gets on, yeah, you see how he made the adjustment onto the hip, and now it's becoming worse for him, so worse for Merinho, because now Meregali's shoulders have actually come forwards, and his weight through that lat is going down. Now, any type of hip escape is much more difficult, and you'll notice, you can't notice from here, but I'm 100% convinced that this arm is still attached to that knee, in case Merinho decides to base on the floor and explode. Because what will happen is that Meregali's foot will be able to come this way, and then he'll take a side control, or at worst, he'll take a top of a guard. So Merinho is doing this to himself, largely. Yeah, now they're fighting. You see that another little adjustment, this little adjustment here. And he's making little adjustments all the time, just tiny little adjustments, trying to get free. Oh, and he goes for the elbow. Merinho shuts it down because he either instinctually or intellectually recognizes that that's a problem. So he really clamps in with his elbow. But that's burning juice. Meregali goes, okay, you have that, that's fine. I'll go for it again when you open up space, because it's impossible to maintain 100% tension the entire time that you're rolling. And so watch. He'll make another adjustment. There's another adjustment. There's another one. So he's pushing. You see how his beautiful movements. Do you see how he gets his shoulder free? See? Shoulder's coming free. Merinho can't shut down this space. Elbow comes out. Now, if Merinho were going to go with this foot on the floor, exploding movement, it would be now. If I was in this position, I would be really tempted to be letting go of this bottom hand and posting it. Because look at where Merengali's weight is. This is actually a positional mistake for Meregali. But Merinho doesn't take advantage of it because he's either too stubborn or he doesn't see it. And so he should be going, right, his weight is going that way off me. Now is my last and only chance before the elbow comes this way and down my back to get this bottom elbow out and up. So I need to go now. This is where you use your effort now. But he doesn't. He just allows it to happen because he's still hunting for that back. But now, as you can see, the back is over here, the back is over here, and his chest is down here. That's a huge distance to travel before you're on the back. Just because your head and eyes are here looking at it doesn't mean your chest is near it. So that's a really important distinction to make, is that just because you can see someone's back doesn't mean you're actually attacking their back, and doesn't mean you're close to their back at all. Now, Meregali's doing this beautiful thing where he's grabbing that midpoint like I said he would. Elbow comes in around the corner, and he still has that grip. He's not let it go. And now what's going to be happening here? Yep, so Merinho does this good thing where he's trying to hunt for the underhooks. He realizes that the grip is killing him. So right now they're going for a grip battle. Meregali's like this. Merinho is holding on to the sleeve, trying to pull it off the knee. But the issue is that he doesn't have any good leverage because his head's so clamped in. So he can't use his lats or any of his deltoid or his traps and all of the scapula, the muscles down his spine. So he can't actually get a lot of good leverage to start pulling that, regardless of whether or not he's stronger than Meregali, which, by their weight difference, I don't think he is. Now, Meregali is doing this beautiful thing where he's still advancing the position slowly over time. He's just being patient. And this is something that I say all the time to my students, is that you want way more patience than you think you need. Be honest, how many of you would have gone, all right, I'm going to stack up that leg when we're here. All right, I'm going to use this leg to either try and climb to mount, or I'm going to use it to help push on the hip, or I'm going to try and shrimp my hips back in a super power movement to clear this elbow that way so I can drag my inside knee out and start passing the guard. A lot of us would be tempted to do that, but Meregali does this beautiful thing where he's just patient, and he just does incrementally smaller and smaller and smaller shrimps until the position becomes untenable. And it's kind of like that boiling frog, where you chuck a frog in a pot, supposedly, and then you turn up the temperature, and then the frog doesn't realize it's getting hotter until it dies. It's kind of the same idea, where he doesn't realize how bad of a position it's got, because superficially it's exactly the same as it was a minute ago. But it's not. It's a hugely bad position now for Merinho, and he's kind of just done nothing about it. He's just allowed everything to happen to him, and he's not conceded defeat because he wants to prove that he's better, like we all do. But sometimes you need to concede, okay, I messed it up here, I've lost this position, you win, if we continue you would beat me. But guess what? That's part of the skill of actually being good, is that you go, right, I messed it up here. Let's reset the position so that I have another go from a better position, a more neutral position, rather than trying to fight from a position that's almost untenable for anyone. So we're here. Now, you see how, as I said, he's still doing this slow shrimping movement, and he's starting to clear the elbow. He's still shrimping. And Merinho doesn't look like he really knows what to do. He's just trying to get the grips, trying to pull, trying to break. The leverage is so strong there. Meregali, because Merinho makes this mistake, or not mistake, but he has to do something. Because the grip's here, and the other hand's around the back, because he still has this grip, so he's not afraid, as I keep saying, of Merinho using this leg to go this way onto the ground. He starts using his outside leg now. Now, the reason why he's safe to do this is because his hips so high up on the shoulders. His hips back here are so high up. So now Merinho has got his elbows jammed high, and he has next to no leverage to start exploding and taking him over the top. So he's going to start using this leg to help clear the foot. Yep, and now Merinho sees that, and he goes, right, I'm going to get underneath, because if I can get underneath that leg, if Meregali was to leave that leg here and allow Merinho to go underneath it, he loses the position. That's a position losing mistake, because now Merinho is attached to the hips. And what would happen, because he's so attached to the hips, is that Meregali's actually put himself in a worse position. It's like if you're in a half guard and the person pulls you up the body. it's now a really bad position. So he does this beautiful thing where he doesn't get single-minded going, I'm going to use that foot to push the knee. He goes, all right, well, you're allowing me in this moment in time to push that knee with my foot, so I'm going to push it with the foot. As soon as the situation changes, he backsteps, so he's not allowing himself to lose the positional advantage he's slowly and incrementally forced. Beautiful. And you see how he adds in more shrimps, because now he's just waiting for Merinho to start exploding. Yep. Now this is beautiful. You see this foot here. You'll notice that he's not flexing his toes, so it doesn't look like this. He's not flexing his toes. He's got placid feet. What happens here is that if you keep your trapped leg relaxed, it becomes really hard to hold on to that, because it just has a tendency to start sliding out of the guard. If you're, for lack of a better word, making the mistake of flexing your toes in the guard because you're so tense and you're trying to roll, you're actually kind of doing the bottom person's job for them by sticky hooking onto the bottom bum cheek in a way. So Meregali's doing this beautiful thing where he's stacked up over the top, as you can see, and he's got a flat foot, and the other foot is using to drive him forwards, and he's using that as leverage to lift this knee up. This grip hasn't changed, you'll notice. And now this is a really bad position for Merinho. He's just losing. Yep, perfect. Absolutely perfect. So Merinho there realizes that the position's almost lost. So he has to go. He has to go now. But as I've been sort of harping on about this entire time, Meregali doesn't trade grips. And this is a really big mistake, a flaw in Merinho's game, actually. It's a flaw in his entire game that's kind of losing him most of these matches, I feel, is that he just trades grips for nothing. And then he comes back to the grip he had to begin with, and he does it just to feel like he's doing something, rather than actually doing something. And so he just ends up kind of beating himself, in a way, rather than losing because he's tired, or losing because the other person ground out at the very perfect optimal timing. He kind of just allows the space and allows the positional advantage to happen without reacting, and then he just loses. So he understands, right, I'm losing this position. He'll be feeling, I have to go. Meregali, look at his concentration. He's waiting. He's feeling with his entire body this moment where this leg comes off. And what he's going to be trying to do is he wants to stop himself from getting tackled down to the ground, to the other side. So he's going to be using this inside knee as a blocker to block the shoulders, and then he's going to use this outside knee as a blocker to block the hips. And he's going to be walking one at a time from knee on shoulder to knee on belly to knee on shoulder to knee on belly. So he's waiting. And then he goes, Merinho goes, and because Meregali has done this huge positional incremental advantage, he gets to lift because he has that back leg to drive. Now, as I said before, this knee is going to be stopping Merinho from trying to go to turtle. He has to, Meregali that is, at all costs stop this knee from going to the ground. As soon as he does, as soon as that happens, he loses. And he loses because Merinho's head is out his back. Meregali is not in a position to attack the neck. And Merinho has this arm on the inside of the leg, as you can see. And the other hand is around the back still, attached to the hips. So what will happen here is he'll either stack up on this leg, so his foot will be flat, like this, and he'll come and do a sit through that way. Or he'll just clock walk around the corner and try and get to the back again. Or this hand will come to the other knee and he'll tackle, and then he'll get on top into like a scrimmage pass or a side control, that type of thing. So it's imperative for Meregali, to lift this knee up. He can't allow that knee to get to the floor. And you'll see that the leg is blocking the hips, and then he brings his left leg in to block the knee. Now the turtle threat's gone. Now the turtle threat's gone. And he's trying to be cheeky. He's trying to go straight to mount. So he saw an opportunity to go straight to mount here. And he goes, right, well, there's nothing stopping me. There's nothing pushing my knee down. Your hand is on my leg. I've got your knee. So your knee can't come in on my hip to block me and push me back that way now. It's too late. I'm confident that I can swing this bottom leg in. This knee is still super attached to your chest. There is an opportunity now for me just to flop this foot over the top, hook it in, and then take mount. So I'm going to go for it. Now he's doing this beautiful thing, really beautiful thing here, when he takes this mount, where he goes flat foot, and this S-mount position is really, really strong. Now, this is not your typical S-mount position where you see how you can see the bottom of his foot right here? What's happening here is that if he wanted to, he could fight for this mount. He could use this inside hand to scoop on this side of his body and push him down and start collapsing with his chest. Because what's happening right now is Merinho is using both hands to push on his knee. To push on his knee that way. The idea being is that he wants to get the leg in between his legs for a half guard. But Meregali has obviously been training with Gordon Ryan, who does this really, really well. Is that he allows the opponent to attack the flexibility of his hip rather than the strength of his hip flexor. So he's not trying to drag. You see how his knee is pointed that way anyway. It's pointed that way. What happens here, and you can try it, is it's like a butterfly stretch. So every time that Merinho tries to push, it's just going to be flexing his hip that way rather than moving his foot that way, which is what you actually want in order to get the half guard. Now, I believe that Meregali takes the foot out, but also he could take mount here if he wanted to. Now, Merinho did that really well, actually. He shifted his grip. He shifted his grip down to shin rather than knee because he felt like it wasn't working. So you see in here, his hand is here now. So all of a sudden, he's not attacking the flexibility of the hip anymore. He's actually pushing the foot because the leverage point is on the shin, not the knee. And so what will happen now is he will get a half guard, and then he's got a very high likelihood of using this hand to get an underhook. Absolutely beautiful. Meregali did a really good job there of when he's here, he did a really good job of not panicking. A lot of people would go, all right, well, the position's lost. I'm going to backstep that way. I'm going to reset the position. Just fight from there. Meregali goes, all right, well, you managed to reguard, but you need to prove to me that you're actually winning here. So prove it to me. And he's not allowing Merinho any space to breathe, really, literally and figuratively. So he's pressuring him physically and he's pressuring him mentally. And you see this hand, he's just wrenching him off the floor. He's putting his weight through the opposite hip into his shin. This knee might be coming through to a knee cut. This knee is really optimally placed because he can do like a back step. He's just setting up so much beautiful technique for free. Now, this grip in here is what I want us to pay attention to. He knows that this grip on the collar with this hand will be the best grip that he can get. So he fights for it. And then he loses it because he has to strip the grip on his own collar. And then he starts passing guard again, but he goes immediately back to it. And I'm going to point out the mistakes that Merinho makes here in a second. Yep. So he has to strip the grip. There he goes. And then he passes the legs. And now Merinho tries this like a single leg X style position, but 2 feet on the hip style thing. What he wants is he wants to get this foot here on the hip so that he can boot him away and start attacking the leg. This bottom leg here is doing a hack motion so that he takes out his only other base by his foot's going this way, because he's doing a big sickle motion around the corner as this foot will be pushing. And then straight away he'll be into his knee bars and his foot locks and so on and so forth. Meregali does a really, really good job of not allowing this to happen. By pulling the leg up and over the top, Merinho makes a mistake. That's a mistake here where he's not as precise as Meregali is. And you see this beautiful, beautiful elbow. He's now doing like a leg drag, and he's driving forward into this knee. So now he has to go through the extension of the leg before he can start even sweeping him. That's if to say he gets the foot back on the hip, which he won't, because Meregali is now shutting down the space and immediately goes back to that grip. Merinho goes, right, I need the knee to come through, so I need to push on your head with my hand. I need this foot on your hip. But he just doesn't allow it. And now this is why I say to my students all the time, I do not respect single leg X positions in gi. In no gi, they're really, really good because you can't stop the other person from messing with your posture. In gi, this grip here is absolutely killer. It's absolutely killer because it keeps you anchored to them going down. Now, I want you to pay attention to this foot here. What he's going to do is he's going to level it out. So right now it's like this. He's going to level it out so it's like that. And I'm willing to bet that he's going to have his toes pointed rather than his toes flexed. So he gets low. Yep, exactly. He's leveling it out. Now what happens here is this is like stacking your opponent for free. All of the weight is now through this point. And Meregali is doing this beautiful thing. He's got a post here, and his outside foot on the back is another post. This foot here, the inside one that I circled, is now the stacker. That's where he wants his weight because he wants the hips to drop, and he wants to use this other hand to pull himself down. Because what happens here is that as soon as this knee goes back around the corner, it has a flow-on effect of dragging Merinho around the corner and exposing his back. As you can see. Now, huge positional mistakes, I feel, from Merinho. Let's count. I told you to pay attention to this grip. As soon as Meregali had it, he never lost it. Now let's count. Let's count how many times Merinho changes his grips. So we're here, he gets the grip. That's 1 and 2, so it's 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He changes his grips 8 times for 1 grip change of Meregali. He changes his grips 8 times. He's just messing around, doing things, and he goes, right, I want to go for the knee bar. Okay, I want to push you away. All right, I want to go for the knee bar. I want to push you away. It's exactly the same as doing that but not attacking it. It's just like, all right, I'm going to put my hands here, let's roll from here. All right, I'm going to put my hands here now, let's roll from here. I'm going to put my hands here now, let's roll from here. He just never does anything with it, and he never commits because he's making positional decision-making mistakes rather than technical mistakes. Now, that's an important distinction to make, is that these guys will all be able to show you a knee cut just as good as each other. Not all of them know when to go for a knee cut at the right time. So he changes, Merinho that is, changes his grips 8 times for 1. And all of that time wasted, Meregali is just focused on getting this knee flat, this foot passive, going around the corner, pressuring down. Now, I really love this because this foot's flat here. There's a long way to go between the hands and the heel in order to pull the leg around for a knee bar. So you're better off not even going for this. You're better off when you get to this position and he gets underneath here. You're better off using this hand to go for the grip on the pants and then trying to either circle underneath or like lift him so that you can get this knee back into the fight, or shuffling your hips that way so that you can off balance him forwards, and then he can't put pressure down through you, and then you can get your legs free and come back into the fight. But he seems to me like Merinho's just panicking. If I had to guess, he's probably like the best or second best player in his gym, and he just has no one that can pressure him like this, so he just has no idea what to do. And then if I had to guess as well, he's probably got a bit of an ego on him, so he doesn't put himself into these bad positions to play these bad positions. If I had to guess, he probably just plays what he's good at and then feels good about himself, comes into the matches and gets absolutely fucking destroyed. Whereas Meregali and Gordon, the reason why they're so good is that they'll put themselves exactly where he is now and try and work from it. And now what will happen is that because they understand how to get out of it, they understand how to beat it. And then they understand the mistakes that their opponents are making. So we're here. He should be keeping that grip. He's hunting for that knee bar, but Meregali, with his grip on the back, is not allowing his shoulders to go forwards. And his foot's coming around the corner, hacking in. So the position's actually just dead lost now. I would be tempted to tap out from here, because if I were Merinho, I know that it's just a waste of everyone's time to continue this match, because it's not my skill that will save me now. It's his fuck up. Now, the next problem with trading your grips so much and not knowing what to do is that this hand was framing on the shoulder. But look where it is now. He's just removed this big bastard of a frame out of the way. So watch what happens to Meregali's chest. It just comes down. As soon as it comes down, it's over. Yep, he settles. He tries to go for a guillotine because that's his jam, but that's a terrible idea. So he's just trying stuff now. Now, this is an awful position. Now, you notice how I said he didn't trade grips unless you don't trade grips unless it's for better grips. So, Meregali traded this grip off the collar for a grip on the back collar with a crossface. That is a huge upgrade, and that's the only time he's traded that grip other than when it was necessary. So he grabbed it, had to strip to deal with the legs, went straight back to it. In the meantime, Merinho has traded his grips like 15 times, and that was a minute ago, and now he's just traded just then, a minute later, for a crossface. And this is a truly awful position for Merinho to be in, because this top knee, being pressured by the hip coming down, makes his spine twisted this way, but the crossface makes his spine twisted that way. So he's getting like ripped in half in a corkscrew fashion. And now you'll notice that Meregali is actually attacking his back, because the pressure of the chest behind that shoulder is so immense that he's just attacking the back. And if he wanted to, see how he comes up. I'm 100% convinced that this is a purpose decision. It's not him making a mistake here. It's him allowing Merinho to come back to his back because he wants that triangle. The cheeky fucker has a triangle on his back. So we're here. I'm convinced that he could have, if he wanted to, just keep pressuring in and then forced the belly down, and then slid this hook, this leg at the back in underneath for the hook, and then just step this top foot over the top and then finish from the back if he wanted to. But he doesn't. He purposely allows the mount because he wants the triangle. Yep, really good working. There's not much to be done here now. There's not much to be done here for Merinho. He's completely lost the position. Yep, takes him out really nicely. And this grip in here is really good because he can't get proper leverage on the shin to push it back into the guard. This hand is not doing much because there's so much pressure going through this bottom hand that he's basically just got like a little lever to push rather than a bench press, that sort of thing. He's done this really well. Yep, you see how, again, he's exposing the bottom of his foot and his knee is angled like this. It's not straight up. Because it's angled slightly to the side, anytime it gets pushed, like I said before, the knee will get pushed that way, but the foot won't get pushed that way, and instead it'll be attacking the rotation of the hip that way. So it's kind of it feels really strong when you do it in training, because the other person will be like, wow, you just feel amazingly strong. How do you have such good adductor strength to clamp your knees in? And you go, well, I don't. I just kind of sat there and you didn't push on the right area. So you beat yourself for me. And it's about positioning yourself really well. Beautiful mount attack. I love these feet under the bum. It's because it's lifting Merinho's bum off the floor, so that any bridges, hip escapes, etc. just become useless. Now, I really feel like he's kind of forgotten his basics, to be honest with you. Merinho, that is. To escape this position, he should be 100% trying to frame on the hips. And he should be using his really basic trap and rolls to expose space so he can shrimp, doing his basic shrimps. But instead, his feet come off the ground and he starts flailing because he wants to use his core strength to try and like either push Meregali down, or I actually don't understand his thought process here, to be honest with you. It just seems bad, for lack of a better word. Now you notice how Meregali isn't panicking. Merinho manages to get the first foot into a guard. But in reality, because the elbows cross the center line, by the center line I mean the center line of the body here, this elbow's cross that center line, it's now no longer a guard, but rather the first hook of a back control. And so you don't need to panic when you're on top, you just need to keep using your shoulders to pressure in and forwards, trying to encourage the person on bottom to keep rotating that way. And then if they do, especially if you have a gift wrap with this top hand, you can use your elbow to flare around the corner, and that will rotate them to their belly, and then this outside foot will come in for the hook. But he wants the mount, so he does this beautiful guard transition and pass, and he's just having free roam now. There's nothing that Merinho can do. He's messed this up really badly, doing the Gordon Ryan half Nelson to get him back down. Merinho's kind of doing nothing. He's grit fighting, sure, but he's not establishing any hip control in there. So he should be trying to jam these elbows. Oops, what did I do? Where have we gone? Should be trying to jam these elbows down on the hips. Meregali is doing this beautiful thing with the pressure. Now, this is exactly what I was talking about. What the fuck was that? That was horrible. What was that? The ground is down here, my dude. We teach all the time to white belts. The hips are the powerhouse of the body. In order to use the hips effectively, you need your feet flat on the ground so that you can raise your hips up. What is that? So he's just wasted a huge amount of energy now for no reason. You're better off just not doing that and then trying to do small incremental advances. You see how he's trying to alleviate the pressure by lifting his hips up now. And he's got his feet in finally underneath him. But it won't matter now. It won't matter because Meregali isn't on his hips anymore. His hips are not on his hips. His hips are on his shoulders. And so he's wasted time in every single position without ever looking to advance with the most basic of techniques. But I should point out, that's all that Meregali's done, is just advancing with basic techniques. Yep, that beautiful foot underneath that we saw just before stops him from being able to rotate as effectively. And now he's high up, and he's Merinho will be tired now. Merinho will be tired now. So what Merinho should be doing is, with this, if he's going to be taking this loop wrap, he should be shoulder walking. So he should have his hips up and he should be doing like a little shimmy on the ground, trying to get his shoulders that way, so that Merinho's hips are now on top of his hips again. Yeah, you're still in the bottom of a mount, but now it's a low mount rather than a high mount, which is substantially better. He's still losing badly though. So yeah, pushes the hand down. Steps over the top. And I'm willing to bet that he finishes the triangle from here. So Merinho's doing his best to get out of it. Meregali doesn't allow the close guard style triangle where he's on his back. His back's on the mats and his feet are up in the air doing the triangle up here. He wants to finish this from mount, which again, I really agree with, is that you should always be looking for positional advantage over your submission attacks. Any submission attempt that risks the loss or over the top loss or just loses a positional advantage is not a good submission attempt, and you shouldn't go for it. And now it's just elementary, you know, it's just intellectual from this point. It's a formality, is what I mean to say, from this point to finish the submission. It's on now. Yeah, beautiful submission finish. Textbook triangle. He's just sitting there, he's just chilling. I guarantee this will be choking the entire time, or at the very least uncomfortable. And now he's just jammed that elbow across. Jammed that elbow across. And now he's just sitting on it, and this is proper on now. Yeah, nice. Wow. Yeah, that's a hugely dominating performance. Now, largely, Merinho actually beat himself because he just kind of forgotten basic principles, like don't trade grips for better grips. You know, feet on the floor while you're shrimping. Don't do shimmies. Know when to bail out of positions. So know when you've lost and don't be stubborn in it. Damage mitigate. You're better off fighting from the top of a guard like you were doing just before than you are fighting from the bottom of a step through. Just because you can see the back doesn't mean you're attacking the back. So largely, he actually beat himself. And these guys, and I know that you'll say, yeah, but Josh, this is what makes him better. And of course, this is what makes Meregali better than Merinho. But technically, they're as good as each other. Both of their movements and the way they're moving their body, both pristine, both better than me. Both about as good as each other from what I can tell. But it's just the decision-making that's really letting Merinho down. And it's the patience and willingness to grind out positions from Meregali that's really winning. Both of them will be able to do pressure, I guarantee it. It's just knowing when and where and how to do it is what's making the difference right now. Alrighty, guys. Well, that's it for this particular analysis. I really hoped you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a comment down below. Potentially like and subscribe would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Bye now.